Hello everybody, I'm Mike the Man and welcome to my channel. So I just had a statement sent my way, an early one from around, I don't know, almost a year ago, where somebody on Facebook talked about the first interview in which Katie didn't mention a noise or a thud at 10 p.m. And the person said it's not quoted word for word, but that was from the first interview. So he or she quoted the first this part from the first interview and said there was nothing about a noise. In my opinion, that is concerning. So the old interviews, Katie was still pretty feisty, if I may use this word, and pretty confident, and they were not beaten down as they are now appearing to be, the Proudfoots. She still had this arrogance about her, where she basically, Chris also of course, and they were basically lecturing people. And the goal was to get people to step back. Like, this is not your case, you have nothing to do with it. You are not a detective, you're not allowed to comment. Which, in my opinion, Katie should have never replied to any of these things. Neither should have Chris. But Chris felt very confident with Katie by his side. And he realizes that she's far more intelligent than he is. So he was probably, I don't know, looking at her ideas, seeing her scripts and saying, wow, this is true. I can sell this, dude. Let's do it, man. That's how he comes off. He likes to boast. He likes to talk to everybody about how the best thing is that he did this without any evidence left behind whatsoever. He is so confident. He is so opposite of Katie, who's much more intelligent, but probably, from what I can tell within her statements, full of self-doubt, which is what drew her to him. They lack where the other packs. And Katie replied. She wrote this on Facebook. This is actually wonderful. I do not have to transcribe anything. I can just copy it from that post. So the noise, the thud, she's telling people now, it is a detail intentionally not mentioned. Yeah, I believe you. I believe you didn't want to mention it to us. In the first interview, because the general public does not need every detail, LE does, really. What about telling people they need to be vigilant and need to look and all of that? Or look anywhere, except at you, your husband, and what happened in your house. That's what she's telling us. You don't need to know every detail. So which ones do you need to know, and which ones do you not need to know? She left it out in the first interview. Later she mentioned it twice. And then, I believe it was an additional interview later on, where she said, I knew he was doing something in the room, that he went to bed at 9 p.m. And then she says, I knew he was doing something in the room because at 10 p.m., around an hour later, she heard some noise. So it was no longer a thud, it was some noise. She's downplaying it now. So that makes no sense, of course, because he went to bed and you didn't hear anything until 10 p.m. So when was he doing something in his room? What was he doing for 1 hour? Well, this is obviously a very sensitive timeline here, from 9 to 10. And she told us, when I told him to go to bed, he did. She chuckles. Later, her language in another interview revealed there was an issue at 3 different times. 3 different small statements within this statement indicated that there was an issue. He couldn't go to sleep. He wasn't going to sleep. And the experiential memory keeps bringing it up, even though she is very well scripted. She's not a great performer. Dare I say Chris Proudfoot is a much better performer than she is. She is the writer, the script writer. She is the brain behind this so-called operation. And Chris is the voice. And he can easily rehearse and just say it as it was scripted, more or less, pretty close. And there's no emotional distraction or anything. And no, I don't think he was there at the time. He goes by what Katie told him. And that makes it easier, because for her, there is a mix of this experiential memory and the script that she needs to deliver. And she does mess up. So how can that be? Well, yes, she's smarter than most people. I give her that. That doesn't mean she knows how to necessarily act. Her acting has been overacting. It's easy for me to detect when certain things are scripted and when she has had a lapse, when she got flustered and experiential memory sneaked its way into her own statements, because everything that precedes indicates there she gets stuck. And she has a habit of talking too much, actually. So if when I say I would be interested in hearing some audio or any conversation, anything from her on audio from before Sebastian went missing, I think she was a talker. She knows not to talk now. She understands her own limits, and Chris does not. So Katie is leaning back and letting him. I'm doubtful that she is completely satisfied with his performance, but after all, it takes attention away from her and pulls it to Chris. Chris, of course, thinks he will convince people to look into every single direction, everywhere, just do it. But he's not clever enough to sell that. Her script was great. The $1 million question is, why did he walk out? Wait a minute. Who says he walked out? Let's stop this right here. He says it's incredible, or whatever word he used, that it took so long for this tape that doesn't have any connection to Sebastian to finally surface. Wait a minute. Who says it took that long? Because law enforcement says, and Nick Barris said, and Jennifer Carpenter, they all agreed, no, from the very beginning we got this tape, they got this tape, and already debunked it, if that's the right word, dismissed it, found no connection. No connection. It's insignificant, but you want to reheat it, because that's what you need. That's what you need to get the attention away from you in your own mind. But like I said, Katie managed to get attention away from herself in the beginning. Chris was a bad guy. And rather than Chris being able to get your attention to something else, he was the one who received all the attention. And he liked it, actually. That's the crazy thing about it. This gives him a sense of satisfaction, because I bet you people didn't listen to him. I bet you he has nothing to say in life. You know, they told him to go home because of his attitude. He probably thinks he has a lot to say, but has nothing to say. People don't voluntarily listen to him. All of a sudden, for the first time in his life, people voluntarily listen to him. People probably dismissed him because he was a big bully and he just boasts, and they thought, oh my God, this dude, I'm not even gonna listen to him, because that's his way. He likes to intimidate. We found it out too from neighbor Bobby and a few other people. That's what he thought he could do with Bullhorn Betty and a lot of others. Intimidate people away. That must have worked for him in the past, but arguing something, being verbally acrobatic, no, that never came easy to the dude. He never had that. He never had people, so many people paying attention to him. Of course, not so many people, but I don't think he had people really paying attention to him. He demanded attention, just like he demanded Sebastian calls him Mr. Chris. He demanded when he was able to exercise force, violence, which is what it was in the case of Sebastian, how he treated him. That was pure violence. Not just physical, but mentally as well. To take his toys away, bag him up, throw them away if he didn't do a great job cleaning his room. Law enforcement does. LE does. Yeah, she's all about law enforcement now. Because remember, for the first 78 hours, this was treated like a runaway case. Did they collect any evidence? No luminol? Nothing. So she has faith in law enforcement and their inability to do anything. That's why she's telling us, yeah, law enforcement, they can know what they want, because, as Chris stated, he left without any evidence left behind whatsoever. So she continues, they have more details than the public ever will. How do you know that? Ever. Why ever? What do you know? What will be shared with the public? Doesn't the case eventually come out to where the public will know everything more or less that took place one day? Ever is a very strong word. She doesn't expect any results. She doesn't think anything will ever be uncovered. She's very confident here, still. And the public at this time looked at Chris more than her. Big mistake. Because he knew how to sell this and get attention to himself. Then the public ever will, because we are doing everything we can to find our son. She says our son. She displays unity with her husband. It's us against him. It's us against them. If he's not your son, Chris, he's not my son either. She took his side over her son when Chris said, it's me or him. There was no doubt in her mind. Me and Chris are we. Now, during the day before Sebastian disappeared, that day he disappeared, during the day, every statement from the morning time and the daytime was we. We did this. 6 or 7 times she said we, and our, and together. After, it went from a really good day to a pretty good evening. And there was no more we in the evening. That's when the conflict began. That's when Katie Proudfoot no longer felt that unity, because she was about to talk to her husband. And she didn't want, in my opinion, him to hear Sebastian back in the background. And having told us on different occasions that he couldn't sleep, and they told us daily and nightly he was medicated. What did you give him that night, and how much did you give him? Because Chris thinks he's very smart one more time, and says, oh, because of HIPAA I cannot talk about what he did, what he took that specific night. Oh, really? Okay, great. There we go. That's our flag right here. That's his pattern. Katie's pattern versus Chris's pattern. That is a sensitive area. What did you give him? He was overstimulated. He had so much food. So then you heard a thud and you asked, did you fall out of bed? I think she medicated him so much he may have tried to throw up. tossed and turned, and fell out of bed. And she mentioned later, I don't want his face to fall to the bottom of the feet. Talking about social media, of course, but the choice of words is important. Let his face fall to the bottom. I believe that was the embedded confession, in my opinion. What happened then? I am not sure yet. Anybody with a statement that indicates it? Well, there was a nudge when they talked about Clarksville or around Clarksville in one of the interviews. So what happened to the body? When were the Bowersoxes up in the morning? What were they? She said she came, Seth was already in his truck smoking. But I also, did Seth say she was there before him? Did Chris drive down there and leave his phone as an alibi connected to Katie up there in Memphis? I don't know. But I am not dismissing anything at this point, unless I see it. Because I believe in the statements. The statements are telling us a lot. Unless it's very factual, unless it's proven to be a fact, then I include the facts to help guide me into the upcoming direction, wherever the road is going to turn. But I'm on the path, I've been on it. In May, I published on my pinned post on Twitter what I just told you guys, what I think happened. And it was on my mind already in March, but finally I typed it down. Like I said, I'm not actively working this case, but it was always in the back of my mind, and all of a sudden I thought, you know what? Let me just write this down now. And we will see. Maybe it'll help somebody. Maybe the right person will see it and look in the right direction. And who knows what will come out of it. They have more details than the public ever will. She's telling you, you will never find out what happened. Ever. The public will never know. And the police, well, they have more details, but they cannot do anything because we are doing everything we can to find our son and bring him home. She already had the bring him home. Well, this is a slogan that has always been around. Bring them home, bring them home. Normally talking about soldiers. Bring them home, bring them home, bring them home. It's a positive message, right? But what's the plan, baby? How are we gonna do that? Okay, they are doing everything that they can to find their son. Well, when it's our son, that includes the way Chris feels about him, meaning Chris wanted him gone. So this completely undermines the importance of finding Sebastian. If she would say, because I'm doing everything I can to find my son. Well, still, don't tell me about it, show me. But it would be a little bit stronger to find my son. I'm doing what I can to find my son. And bring him home? Why is that so important? Doesn't it sound meaningless? Like you just find a script from somewhere else and just insert it because you saw it work so many times. But you're not a politician. You're not running for office. So this may be something that works in politics. But in this case, you want to find your son. But you're explaining that we will never have the answers. They have the details, but they still haven't found your son. So they're spinning their wheels. It looks like it, or it seems like that is what she is thinking and feeling good about. how would you word it if you were in this situation? Would you be that defensive? Would you write a long article about why you left out the noise? Or would your concern be find your son to find my son? You wouldn't need to explain anything. If somebody says this is concern, look at what they said about Seth and all the lies that came. He didn't reply to anything after a while. Maybe in the beginning he blew up at Trevor Lee. He felt he was taken advantage of by people who benefit from his presence on their channel, but don't do anything to help find his son, and just play around and argue and keep people on their channels for 4 or 5 hours on the live stream. He knew he was being used, and that's why he blew up. And I understand it. Would I have used the same words he used? Would I have I don't know how I would have reacted. You see? It's very easy to judge that, unless you're in the situation. And maybe it took him quite some time to realize what they were doing, allegedly, in my opinion. Sorry, Trevor, I'm not sorry. Now, maybe Trevor is one of the... I don't know about Trevor. I don't know. But I saw other people. JLR, even though he did a good interview with Barney. Great interview with Barney, actually. I changed my mind about him for a minute, and then it changed right back. So sorry, Trevor, if I said something. I didn't listen to you in the beginning. I actually assumed some of this. Okay? Just want to make it clear. I understand you may find it concerning, really. I understand you. That is patronizing. I understand you may find it concerning. That is her acting like she is the CEO and you're just an employee. I understand your concerns. I understand your pain. I understand your worries. Telling you she understands you, really. Is that a script, or is that the way she usually talks? It could be a script. It could be a mix of both. I understand. Oh, wow, thank you. Katie understands me. Whew. All right, no, she didn't do nothing. She's great. I understand you may find it concerning. This is very patronizing, and this is normally what you say when you feel very elevated in a position where you can decide over people's future in your own company or something along those lines. I understand you may find it concerning. Now, let's see what comes. She said it, well, twice she said it, but she messed up. But why did she mess up? Because interference of... Well, let me get into this later. Not right now. I understand you may find it concerning it... Well, she messed up. Concerning it unless you are a detective. So don't talk to me. You have no right to speak unless you are a detective. You have no right to get involved. See, the detectives... They missed a chance to treat this like a crime scene from the very beginning. They messed up. So she feels good about the detectives and law enforcement. She feels safe. But she realizes that the public doesn't simply say, well, we messed up with the evidence, we didn't collect it, we need to, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? She realizes the public doesn't give a crap about that. They say something is wrong here. All of a sudden she feels that. And it overwhelmed her. She didn't have that stuff before. Suddenly it comes from all angles. And a lot of us have followed crime stories in the past and are very well aware of what some mothers have done to their own children. What some stepfathers have done to their children. So she is telling you, you are not important. You need to step back, you need to shut up. And you need to let them do. Don't get involved. She's telling us in a minute, please stop. And able to genuinely help in the search. Please stop and help spread his flyer. His flyer. Not our flyer. You didn't make these flyers? My flyer? His flyer. That's his thing. We do our thing. That's his thing. That is a form of distancing. His flyer. Keep aware of anything. There we go. Not everything, but anything. Very vague. Just get sidetracked and look around and follow everything except me. Don't look at us. Keep aware. And stay aware of anything. Don't stop. Keep aware. Not help me find my son, but keep aware of anything that could possibly help lead to finding Sebastian. How watered down is this? Anything that could help lead to finding Sebastian, could possibly help lead to finding Sebastian.